do you have in common with Frodo, Harry Potter, and Superman that matters to building a thriving business? I'll be back in 20 seconds to tell you what it is and how to make it work for you. So stick around. Okay, welcome gamers to training day 22 of our first season together inside of the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship and how to play it. My name, of course, is Chris All in White. I am the game master, and by now you know that my role in the game is quite simple, and that's to disrupt your thinking. Now, I want to do that because I'm passionate about empowering you to live outside of your phone booth so that you can share your extraordinary with the world. Now, what the heck does living outside your phone booth have to do with anything? Well, just ask yourself this question: what would have happened had Superman never gotten out of the phone booth? And of course, your answer is nothing would have happened, right? And that's exactly why living outside of your phone booth every day is priority number one. So gamers, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Game on. Okay, so back to the question: what do Frodo, Harry Potter, and Superman have in common with you and all of the heroes of ancient myths? Well, what if I told you that your story is really just a variant of Harry Potter's story and Frodo's story and Superman's? Would you believe me? Well, you know, there's a guy by the name of Joseph Campbell who would believe me. And if you're not familiar with Joseph Campbell studied the myths of heroes all over the world. And he published a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Inside that book, Joseph Campbell told dozens of stories that showed how each of the heroes represents the monomyth, or what Joseph called the hero's journey. Okay, so in this book, Joseph Campbell asks us to think of the hero's journey as a cycle. Okay, so I want to encourage you to imagine like a circle, or let's say a clock on the wall, okay, where the journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world. So let's call that 12 o'clock. Okay, this is where the hero's journey begins at 12 o'clock. We'll call this the ordinary world. And then during the journey, the hero is going to pass through what we might refer to as a special world. Okay, so along the way, there are going to be some key events that the hero will experience on the journey. Okay, so I want you to think about your favorite movie or even your own life. Okay, and ask yourself, does it follow this pattern? All right, now this is a pattern that Matthew Winkler depicts brilliantly in his short film, What Makes a Hero? Okay, so let me walk through the different steps inside of this pattern. Okay, so step number one, again, is going to start at 12 o'clock. Okay, this is what we call the status quo on the hero's journey. We're also referring to it as your ordinary world. Okay, then let's go to 1 o'clock. Okay, at the 1 o'clock position, the hero is called to adventure. Okay, so in my mind, I think of Neo in the Matrix, for example, when he was offered, the red pill, blue pill by Morpheus, right? Called to adventure. Okay, now this could be an invitation. This might be a challenge that you're facing. This might be an opportunity that presents itself. Okay, you are called to adventure. At the 2 o'clock position, this is the step in the process that we call assistance. Okay, so again, back in the movie The Matrix with Neo, you might think of Morpheus, right? Because assistance is where the hero is going to need support and help on the adventure. You hear me often talk about John Maxwell's quote when he says, "One is too small a number to achieve greatness." That's really what we're talking about here. Now, typically, this assistance is going to come from someone who's older and wiser. Okay, this takes us to the 3 o'clock position. This is what we call departure, right? This is where the hero sets out, the hero crosses the threshold from his normal world where the status quo was good enough. Right now, the hero is in his special world, okay, where the adventure begins. Okay, that takes us to 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock is trials, okay? The hero has to solve a mystery, perhaps. The hero has to escape a trap. Maybe the hero has to fight off his first round of Mr. Anderson's, if we're going to go back to the movie The Matrix and Neo. In that first trial where he met Mr. Anderson and had to engage into that conflict, right? That's going to take us to the 5 o'clock position on the clock, which is approach. We call this approach. This is where the hero is forced to face his worst fear. Okay, you might think of this as being forced to face your biggest giant. Okay, being forced to face your biggest giant. This takes us to the 6 o'clock position, which is crisis. Right, this is the hero's darkest hour, where he is temporarily defeated. Right, where failure shows up on the scene, where the hero experiences a setback, perhaps, and the hero is faced with the choice. Okay, to accept defeat and crawl back to the status quo, right, the ordinary world. So the hero can choose to accept defeat, or the hero can choose to face the adversity and to learn from his failure and his setbacks. And like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the hero becomes born again. More powerful, smarter, better, faster, more equipped to continue the journey. Okay. Now, in this crisis phase, the 6 o'clock position, comfort is going to be one of the biggest killers here. Comfort, right? Wanting to go back to your normal, because what we know is that human beings, the human mind wants to always live in a place of comfort. Okay, so in the stage 6, the crisis stage, as you can imagine, it's not going to be very comfortable. Okay, so even if you're unhappy with how you're living now, especially being in America, you're still mostly comfortable. Okay, so you're going to have to really be mindful of this crisis phase. You're going to have your anchor down. And we've talked in past episodes of the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship and how to play it around the purpose of having your personal vision in place. Okay, this is where the vision that you have inside of your playbook, this is where it's going to show up in this moment of crisis. This is what's going to empower you to push through the adversity. Okay, to overcome this 6th step, you're going to have to embrace discomfort. Okay, and that's going to take you to the 7 o'clock position. Okay, that's the what we call the treasure position. Okay, now as a result of exercising courage, you know, think of this like a reward for exercising your courage through the crisis to continue the journey, you're going to become a new person. Right? I mean, that's the big benefit here. This is the treasure. You become a new person. You've got new skills. You've got new powers. This again is your reward for being someone who's willing to brave through the crisis. Okay, that's going to take you to the 8 o'clock position, which is results. We call this result. The result's going to differ from hero to hero and from journey to journey. Your result's going to be different from my result, for example. But this is where the hero's biggest giant may continue to chase him or her, you know, sending more adversity your way. It's very possible when you get to this result phase, or perhaps at the result phase, the world begins to bow down to you, honoring you as the hero. Okay, that's the 8 o'clock position. That takes us to the 9 o'clock position, which is what we call return. Okay, so having braved the adventure, the hero now returns to his ordinary world. Okay, you've braved the adventure. You're at the 9 o'clock position. You're returning to your ordinary world. That takes you to the 10 o'clock position, which is now new life. We call this new life. The hero is changed. Okay, the hero is transformed into a new person because of the adversity faced and overcome on the journey. And that takes us to the 11 o'clock position, which is one of the most fascinating positions for me. This is where all of those tangled plot lines now get straightened out. You know, things are more clear when they're resolved. Hope abounds. You know, I think in my story, when I was called into adventure, I was at a phase in my life about 3-4 years ago where a chapter was closing. I actually had a business that fell apart. My wife was out of work and didn't have a paycheck coming in. Okay, so I was called into this adventure to learn how to build a business on the internet, to learn how to generate leads. And I can remember during that first year when I was learning and I was facing that adversity, there were several times I got into crisis. The first was when I was learning how to generate leads on the internet. Okay, so this was my first adventure around this clock, right? Around these 12 stages that we're talking through on the hero's journey. And I had to pass through the first phase of getting assistance, right? I aligned with a mentor, someone who gave me wisdom, right? And then I had to set forth, I had to make the decision to go forth. In my case, that was making a $5,000 investment into a program to get mentored. Okay, so now I was into a special world, a new world, right? I started to face trials as I was learning how to generate leads. You know, it was a new skill. I've never done it before. I was facing a lot of challenges, a lot of unfamiliar territory on this journey. Some initial trials I was able to overcome, but then I went into that phase of crisis where I faced my giant and I faced some pretty big defeats on this journey. It was tough. I spent money on Facebook ads, in my case, that didn't produce a return on investment for me. And I had that battle in my mind where I started asking myself, is this worth it? Am I being wise here with my money? I feel like I'm just losing money. And so I was in that battle where I had to get my mind right and understand I was making an investment in developing my skill. And I was able to do that because I had a vision for my business. I had a vision for my life. And that helped me persevere through that adversity so that I could come out the other side and I could have that treasure. I could have that skill that is now highly valuable out in the marketplace that I now get paid for, and I'm able to generate 6 figures a month in the marketplace with. Okay, so that brings us back to this resolution stage where now all of a sudden all these tangled plot lines now get straightened out. Because I remember when I started the adventure, I had no clue how to generate leads on the internet. So there are all of these tangled plot lines. How do you generate leads? How do you make money online? I had all these questions, all these tangled plot lines. And now I've taken the hero's journey in this example, and now I've got resolution. All of a sudden, things are more clear. Wow, I know how to generate leads. I understand the power and the significance of doing that. Hope abounds. I'm hopeful. That takes me back to 12 o'clock, right? I'm back to the status quo. Okay, but it's not the same status quo. It's a new status quo, right? I've been upgraded to a new level. I now have a new normal. Okay, now here's the thing. If you're committed to achieving extraordinary levels of performance, your journey is going to follow this pattern of events very closely. Okay, so again, what do you have in common with Harry Potter, with Frodo, and with Superman? Hey, they are human too. The hero's journey continues to get updated throughout cultures because, we connect deeply with the symbolic stories of these myths that are, when you think about it, what the stages I just walked you through, that's playing out in all of our lives as entrepreneurs right now. Okay, so as an entrepreneur, there's no doubt that you must have the courage to leave your comfort zone, right? You must have the courage to depart. We would all agree with that. You must have the courage to face trials in that 4th stage, to face adversity. You must have the courage to brave the crisis in stage 6, right? Because it's in the crisis that you transform in order to overcome the challenge that you're facing. And then what happens? You recover and you prepare to do it all over again. This is a very critical takeaway of the training today, is that you recover and you're prepared to do it all over again. So back to my story, when I learned how to generate leads and I got back to the 12 o'clock and I was this new man and I had all these hopes and I felt like I was on top of the world. Now I know how to make millions of dollars in my business and live the life that I want to live. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh, I probably need to learn how to, get better at prospecting and closing over the phones. And so again, I was called into the hero's journey to learn how to do that. And so we could use that example for maybe learning how to build websites online. Maybe that's the challenge you're facing. Maybe that's your big giant, right? Or maybe it's product development, right? Maybe it's systemization. Maybe it's figuring out how to set up an outsourcing process in your business. Maybe it's a number of things. Okay, but what I'm encouraging you to have perspective around here today is that you are going to take the hero's journey for all of these things. And this is why it's important never to go alone. Okay, so you're going to be constantly on the journey, you're going to recover, and you're going to prepare to do it all over again. Okay, now of course you don't have to protect yourself from kryptonite or go toe-to-toe with Lex Luthor. Your life may literally not be on the line, like some of our favorite superheroes find themselves. But then again, as I was thinking about that thought that I was going to share with you today, I started to ask myself, but then again, maybe it is. Maybe your life is on the line, right? There's a study that they do with people on their deathbeds, and they often ask, what's the biggest regret you have in your life? And oftentimes people say, I didn't go for it. So that's why I say maybe your life is on the line. This is your legacy we're talking about. This is the real deal. Okay? I love this quote from Joseph Campbell, who says, Joseph Campbell, again, is the man who wrote the book that talked about the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Let me say that again. I want to encourage you to write this one down in your playbook. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. So the question is, what is the symbolic cave that you fear to enter? Because, my friend, that's where your treasure is. Is it speaking on camera? I know when I used to first started getting the camera out, talking on camera, I was super nervous, super anxious, didn't know what to say. I would just get into this perfectionist mindset, and I really had to overcome that. That was my cave to enter, and now I've got all kinds of treasure from having the courage to get on camera and share messages with people all over the world. Okay, so what's the symbolic cave you fear to enter? Maybe it's making the investment into a coaching program that you really need to help you develop the skill to be successful. Maybe it's making an investment into a product that you want to put into your product model, into your business, that maybe is going to pay you high-ticket commissions, for example. And you've got your mind wrapped around this fear of the investment. But in your gut, it makes sense. There's logic there that, hey, if I'm selling a high-ticket commission product, I can make high-ticket commissions, and I got to sell less to make more. Wouldn't life be a lot easier doing that? Maybe your cave is getting on the phones like mine was to prospect and close sales into your business. Maybe, just maybe, your cave is love. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's love. Okay, so here are your actions for today. I want to encourage you to watch for these events that we just talked about. Okay, to play out the next time that you watch your favorite TV show or your favorite movie, right? So again, what we're talking about here is status quo. That's stage one, status quo. Then you're going to move to the call to adventure. We all have that call to adventure in our lives. And then you're going to want to find assistance. But then you've got to depart, right? Departure is the key thing. That's where most people lose. They just never have the courage to depart. But then once you depart, you have to understand you're going to face trials. Okay, you're going to have to approach your biggest giant, and you're always going to find yourself in a crisis. It's always going to happen. If you have the courage to survive the crisis, you're going to come out the other side with the treasure. And what's the result? You're a different person. Okay, you now get to make the return, right? Back to your status quo, your new life, right? Everything's been resolved. And you get to rest, recover, and then you get to do it all over again. Okay, so I want you to watch for these events to play out the next time that you watch your favorite TV show or your favorite movie. And I'm asking you to do this because I want these events to inspire you, right? I want you to see yourself in the story, okay? I want to encourage you to pay attention to how your story connects to the events, to the character, and how that character what that character must face on that journey, what that character must do to overcome the crisis that the character is facing. And I want to encourage you to be sensitive to the call to adventure in your life. I tell my wife, oftentimes every day, I say, you know what, honey, we are living. That's what we do. We're living life. We get up every day. We're both entrepreneurs. We get to create and inspire and put value into the marketplace. We're living. And I really believe entrepreneurship is the only true path left to freedom. Okay, so we all have a call to adventure in our life, and I want to encourage you to be sensitive to that call to adventure, and then to have the courage to seek wisdom when that call shows up, to seek wisdom, but not just to seek wisdom, to then depart and courageously face what your adventure calls you to face, so that you may conquer and overcome, right? So that you may celebrate the new you in preparation to what? In preparation to do it all over again. Okay, so again, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you see. Okay, now I wanted to share this message about the hero's journey here on Monday morning as we're moving into day 22 together. We've been together for 3 weeks. I got to believe, if I put myself back to when I was first starting to play the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship, just kind of me here in my office years ago, I remember the feeling of overwhelm, the feeling of trying to get it all right and figure it out and just getting overwhelmed. And so I wanted to share with you some perspective to help you understand you are on the hero's journey right now. Maybe you're facing the trials. Maybe you're facing the crisis. Maybe you're just departing, okay? But I want to prepare you emotionally to have a high level of emotional intelligence here on the hero's journey so that you can survive the crisis, come out the other side with the reward, with the treasure, so that those plot lines can get resolved so that you can rest, recover, and do it all over again as a new person so that you can have a new normal. Okay, so I hope this has been valuable to you. I hope it inspires you. It gives you what you need, the fuel that you need to go out there today and be extraordinary, to crush out the rest of the week together. Hey, I want to encourage you to like the video. I want to encourage you to leave your comments below and share this video with people that would find value in what we've talked about to help them on their hero's journey. And then lastly, make sure you get in the private Facebook group and share your thoughts with us in there as well. We're building a really fun, awesome, supportive community. We got a lot of big thinkers in there doing a lot of cool things. If you're not in that group, make sure to get in there. Facebook.com/groups/extraordinary game. And I will be back tomorrow for day 22. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship and how to play it. And remember, gamers, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. So get out of your phone booth and go share your extraordinary with the world.